And first, there will be introduction to it by Mr. Zaremba, who is the representative of the Ministry of Entrepreneurship and Technology, Department of Innovation. So now, therefore, we would not invite panelists because slides would be shown. So this time, Krzysztof Zaremski will first show and discuss the slide. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't think I would start the panel this way. I thought there would be some introduction to discussion. Of course, I will try now to do it. So we have 10 minutes to make brief introduction. Let me just walk a little bit, then it will be easier to somehow communicate with. So Industry 4.0 in the context of the strategy for responsible growth. Or responsible development. Of course, it has nothing to do with clusters, but when I discuss it, you will know the approach of the Polish government to clusters in the past and to what we call now the fourth industrial revolution. So strategy for responsible development. So indeed, I do hope that looks beautiful. So we do hope that Industry 4.0, that is the fourth industrial revolution, today addresses the issue of reduction of major traps that put the development of our country at risk. So the first trap is the medium income trap. So what we mean here is that Industry 4.0 will lead to a situation that we will transfer to knowledge-based economy. Why today we are not a knowledge-based economy? I will discuss later on while showing next slide. We would like to depart from the kind of average product, because now we are at the stage of the second industrial revolution, that is 2.0, I mean Poland. And the third trap is demographic trap. Later on I will discuss what I mean here. And briefly, in Poland we miss several hundred thousand or maybe even 1 million labor force. So now, ladies and gentlemen, some more detailed information about the fourth revolution. So the first industrial revolution, the steam, the second kind of common revolution, the use of electricity, and the lines, assembly lines of constant production, and the third one, transfer to computers, and the fourth one is the digital revolution, which will cause the integration of all chains, that machines learn from machines, that we have, let's say, the common Internet of Things. So forth. And in fact, a human being is, brutally speaking, marginalized, but in fact, this is for the good of people. So what were the factors of production? Please have a look at them. Individual revolutions, capital and work, capital and organization and knowledge, and then organization, knowledge and data. This is the very essence of the topic that we've been thinking about now in Poland. Maybe not thinking, because we were thinking about it earlier, but now we are trying to implement it intensively so that to obtain comparative advantages, because without competitive advantages, then we would, because otherwise we would get back. So those who do not go forward, they get back. So as I mentioned, Poland was or is still partly labor-intensive economy, because the capital-intensive economy was introduced more or less 30-25 years ago together with foreign investment projects. So what we mean, we want to swiftly move from labor-intensive economy to the knowledge and data-based economy, partly avoiding this capital-intensive economy. So what we see is that today we have no limits to this process, to
No
hindering the
oczywiście są
process.
pewne
But
obiektywne
of course there are some
problemy. To
objective
jest, proszę Państwa,
problems.
wykres liczby
This
robotów
is the
przemysłowych
chart
na
of the
1000
industrial
pracowników w
robots per
2016
1000
roku.
employees in 2016.
Numer jeden to jest
Number
oczywiście
one is
Korea.
obviously Korea.
Kończymy ten slajd Chinami,
China is
a
here
Polska
in the
jest
last
gdzieś
position,
dalej.
and Poland
To
is
jest
even
22 roboty
further.
w 2016 roku
22
na 10
robots in
tysięcy
2016
pracujących.
per 10,000
Ale z tego slajdu
employees, but
tchnie optymizmem,
of course
ponieważ
this
mówimy o roku
slide is
16.
kind of
Dzisiaj mamy rok
optimistic
18
because it's
i ja Państwu mogę
2016 and
powiedzieć, że
today
rok do
is
roku te przyrosty są
2018
na
and I would
poziomie,
say year to year
znaczy zakupów nowych robotów w Polsce na poziomie
we have purchase
250-300%,
of
czyli
new robots at the level
próbujemy
of
w tej chwili się znaleźć na tym slajdzie.
350%. So we are
To
trying
może
to
nie
find
będzie
our
jeszcze ani w
place
tym
on this
roku, ani w
slide,
przyszłym,
maybe
ale
not
miejmy
this
nadzieję,
year,
że w roku
maybe next year,
2020
but hopefully in 2020
pojawimy się na tym
we
slajdzie.
will appear on this slide.
I teraz demografia. Proszę spojrzeć sobie,
demographics.
to jest bardzo ważny
look.
wykres.
This is a very
To jest
important
wykres od
chart.
roku
It
2005
is chart
po
from
rok
2005 to
2030,
2030.
gdzie tak naprawdę pokazujemy, że
indeed we
przy tym
show
piku
that
około
with
tam
this
roku
peak about,
2010-2011
2010, 2011,
w 2030 zabraknie nam
2030 we won't
ludzi w wieku produkcyjnym na poziomie 3 milionów
enough people at the
osób. Już dzisiaj
production
mówi się,
age,
ponieważ to są
the
szacunki,
level of
mówi się dzisiaj, że na rynku
2
polskim
million
pracuje około
people.
2
Even
miliony
today
Ukraińców i około
we have 2 million
600
Ukrainians
tysięcy
working in the Polish
Białorusinów.
market and about
I oni, jak widzimy, nie
60,000
zaspokajają nam tej
Belarusians, but as we
luki
see, they do not feel
popytowej na pracę.
this gap
To znaczy, że chcąc utrzymać
or demand
nasze
for labor
zdolności
force. So
w
by
produkcji różnych dóbr,
wanting
musimy
to
oprzeć się
maintain
o
the production
roboty.
of various
Już
goods,
nie
we
o
must
automaty, tylko o
base
roboty. Czasem
our
mówię,
work on
tutaj już
on
dzisiaj z
robot
panami
work. In
rozmawiałem.
fact, it should be robots work.
Kilka lat temu zadałem
I
pytanie
already
fachowcom,
discussed
bo
it
nie
today with some
rozumiejąc za
people.
bardzo
Several
jako
years ago,
prosty inżynier,
asked
jaka jest
experts some
różnica
questions because I'm a
pomiędzy
simple engineer. What is
automatem
the
a
difference
robotem?
between automat
Fachowcy od robotyki mi
and
wytłumaczyli,
robot and
że
robotics?
automat
Experts
działa
tells me that
zgodnie z
automated
jakimś
machine
algorytmem. To znaczy, że
acts
jeżeli
according to some
coś się stanie,
algorithm. So
będzie
if
jakiś
something
błąd, to po
happens,
prostu
there
się
is a
zatrzyma
mistake,
i
then it
przestanie
stops
działać, tak?
and
Natomiast
that
robot
stops working.
teoretycznie
Well, a
ma szansę
robot
się
in
pomylić,
theory has a
bo jest maszyną
chance
myślącą.
to make a
No mówię,
mistake because it's a
teoretycznie oczywiście
thinking
szansa, że się pomyli,
machine.
jest
In
bardzo
theory, of
znikoma,
course, the
ale dajemy mu
chance
taką
that
szansę.
he makes a
I tak
mistake
naprawdę mówimy,
is
że będziemy tą lukę zaspokajać
negligible,
już nie
but in fact this gap should be
automaty,
filled not by
mówiąc proste, ja wiem, że są automaty
automatic
złożone, ale tak
machines,
naprawdę
and
przez
now there are
roboty,
also complex
które
automatic
dadzą
machines, but
nam
by robots,
największe
which will give
szanse i
us the
możliwości na
biggest
to,
chances
żeby ta
and
nasza produktywność
possibilities
rosła
for
dynamicznie.
our productivity to grow.
Proszę Państwa, uwarunkowania
dynamically.
transformacji
So
do
now
przemysłu 4.0,
transformation
rynek,
conditions
ludzie,
for
technika i
industry
otoczenie.
4.0 in
O
Poland,
ludziach
so people,
zacznijmy może od rynku,
environment,
ponieważ
technique
dzisiaj
or
są
technology. So let's
dostępne
start
rozwiązania z przemysłu
with perhaps the
4.0 i na
market, because
rynku.
today
Jest
there are
pytanie
products
takie, jaki mamy popyt. No
available
popyt
from
zależy z jednej
that
strony od
Industrial Revolution 4.0. And what is the demand
otoczenia,
now? Demand
które
depends
dookoła nas
on the
istnieje,
environment, on the
do tego,
milieu
jaka jest
around
presja
us, on
gospodarcza
the
na to, żeby
economic
takie rozwiązania w Polsce wdrażać.
pressure
Z drugiej strony
for introducing such solutions in Poland. And on the other hand, it pertains to some awareness of business
można z
of
tego przemysłu 4.0 w Polsce uzyskać. I mam nadzieję, że
Industry
dzisiejsza dyskusja,
4.0 in
którą tu
Poland
przeprowadzimy, pozwoli
that could be
nam się
obtained
zbliżyć
here
do
in
tego i
Poland.
pokazać
Thanks to our discussions,
Państwu,
I
jakie
hope
korzyści, oczywiście
we
wiem, że
will
Państwo widzicie te korzyści, ale
show
to jakby
the benefits. Of course, I
unaucznimy
know
je, te korzyści, jakie one
that you
przed
realize that there are
polską
such benefits,
gospodarką, przed polskim
but
biznesem
we will
stoją.
show
Jeżeli
these
chodzi o ludzi,
benefits for
no
Poland
jest
and
to pewien
Polish
problem, ponieważ
industry. As
trzeba
for
mieć
people, it's a certain
kompetencje
problem
dla
because
wdrożenia.
first
Też
you
myślę,
have
będziemy
to
mówili
have
dzisiaj o
competencies for
kompetencjach.
such implementation. So of course we will discuss
Chodzi o
competencies
pewną
today.
kulturę
What I mean,
przedsiębiorczości,
a
bowiem
culture
tak
of
naprawdę przemysł 0 to nie
entrepreneurship,
tylko
because
maszyny. To
Industry 4.0 is not just machines.
nowa
It's
idea w
a
ogóle
new
prowadzenia
idea
biznesu,
of running
oparta o
business
to, co jest w naszych
based on
umysłach,
what's in
a nie
our
tylko,
minds
mówiąc
and
brzydko,
not
leżąca po
just
stronie samej techniki. I organizacja pracy, ponieważ
embedded in
organizacja
technology
pracy się
itself and
diametralnie
work
zmienia.
organization.
Dzisiaj
It
mówimy
is
o tym, że maszyny
changing
uczą się
dramatically.
od
Today we
maszyn.
say that machines learn from
Powiem
machines.
szczerze Państwu, nie tylko
And
w Polsce, ale również
frankly
w firmach
tell you that
zagranicznych,
not
które
only in
miałem
Poland,
okazję
but also
zwiedzać
in
właśnie
foreign
pod kątem
companies
Przemysłu
that
4.0.
I was
Czasem widzieliśmy, że w
on a
bardzo
sightseeing tour
zaawansowanych
with a
przedsiębiorstwach
view to
stojące
Industry 4.0.
obrabiarki
We saw that very
w
much
całych rzędach,
various drill
pracujące bardzo intensywnie.
CNC machines, machine tools cables could be in theory be connected by cable, and they could exchange information between themselves, but very often these cables just are put somewhere, and these machines work on a kind of island basis, and this is something that we should not have. I mean, these machines should be interconnected. I would not
technika to jest
discuss
rzecz, myślę, najbardziej
because
banalna, bowiem
this
te
is the
rozwiązania
most banal
dynamicznie się
thing,
rozwijają.
or technology,
Inną rzeczą jest
because these
infrastruktura, bo
solutions
przecież bez
are
tej infrastruktury
developing
większość rzeczy
rapidly. But the other
związanych
thing is
z 4.0, czyli na
infrastructure,
przykład
because most of those
autonomia
connected with
pojazdów
4.0, like autonomy
nigdy
of
nie zostanie
vehicles,
wdrożona.
will never be
A ostatnią rzeczą jest to, o
implemented,
czym
and the last thing I'd like to mention is a thing that is very often forgotten by many people, that here we discuss lots of data and the issue of cybersecurity and ensuring cybersecurity, not only on the level of data output, but also at the level of ensuring swift flow of data between all these pieces of equipment is of key importance. So now the media, the environment, something that the administration is responsible, like financial mechanisms, regulations and standardization. And the first thing that appeared last year, so first of all, faster depreciation for robots was suggested in the amendment to the Act on CIT and PIT tax. So now each company can afford one robot a year because, well, that's the price of robots now in Poland. And the second thing that we've been working on, we do hope that the Polish Parliament will adopt the law on the platform of the future and the foundation on that, so that would be the basis for the national integrator of technological changes in Poland's economy. And the third thing, we are all the time supporting R&D. The legal act on innovation introduces tax preferences, tax reliefs on work on software and hardware pertaining to robotization. Of course, initiatives for Industry 4.0 in Europe, we are not mentioned here, but we are very close to enabling such official initiative being there on this map. And what about the platform? What would be this platform? The platform would be the integrator, and it would support the transformation of Poland's economy towards Industry 4.0. It's not banal to support transformation, because here we would have at least 12 initiatives where the platform should operate intensely among entrepreneurs, among broadly understood bodies of economic education, and among public organizations, public institutions, because they should have a current know-how on how the world is changing, how the world around us is changing, that we are not operating somehow not connected with the world, so we are not an island. And here we see 12 key statutory objectives to be achieved by the platform, from raising awareness of digitizing the industry to education, training, and support. I mean, advisory support
w każdym indywidualnym przedsiębiorstwie rozwiązań cyfrowych.
Introducing digital solutions which are possible to be introduced in Poland. So thank you very much. I hope I managed to do it in a minutes time slot allocated to me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your introduction. Now let me introduce onto the stage our panelists. First of all, moderators, Mr. Stachnik and Radek Krzywicki. Krzysztof, would like to invite you here as well. Mr. Haber, who is a representative of the Polish Agency for Enterprise Development. Mr. Piotr Popik, expert on the evaluation of class organization. Mr. Przemysław Borgosz, who is CEO of SCAR Brussels. Christoph Reis-Schmidt, who is a representative of Clusterland. And Mr. Vaidas Gricius, Ministry of Economy in Lithuania. So please take your seats and some kind of logistical information. So for you to know how much time we have, 45 minutes for the discussion, up to 50. And this way we will reduce a little bit the workshops, but I think we are, let's say, getting tired with every hour, so we will do our best so that the workshop is dynamic and we will finish as planned, at the time as planned. Okay, so
Witam
now it
serdecznie
works. I'm happy to welcome all of you, gentlemen,
Ponieważ jesteśmy po obiedzie, to ja tak pozwolę sobie troszkę mniej oficjalnie tę dyskusję poprowadzić. Chciałbym, żeby ona była dynamiczna. Jeżeli Państwo będziecie mieli jakieś pytania niecierpiące zwłoki w trakcie, to myślę, że je też jakoś dopuścimy. Natomiast to, co chciałbym na początek, żebyśmy
we will allow it, but at the
po
beginning,
tej
I'd
prezentacji,
like
którą bardzo dziękuję, panie
you,
Krzysztofie,
that after the presentation
myślę, że
for
wiemy
which
teraz,
we'd like to thank you,
jak to Industry
Krzysztof,
4.0 ma się
because we
rzeczywiście
know how
w przyszłości
Industry
rozwijać.
4.0
Chciałem skierować
is to
do
develop
Pawła
in the
Habra
future.
pytanie,
First, I'd
jak
like
to
to
wygląda
ask a
dzisiaj,
question
jakie
to Paweł
mamy
Haber. What is the
statystyki,
situation like?
jaki
What
jest
about
stan rozwoju
statistics?
i jakie są
What is the
przewidywania na
status of
najbliższy czas w Polsce.
development and what are the predictions for the nearest future in Poland? So, good afternoon. Before the panel, we had a discussion with Radek, and he told me which questions he would ask. He wanted me to refer to the presentation that was made by the representative of the ministry, so I was taking notes on my mobile so that to show the statistics.
Już widać, że te
So
powitania były takie sztuczne.
I say that everything has been here kind of artificial and staged, so to speak. Okay, anyhow, it seems quite natural now. So getting back to statistics, you mentioned, the gentleman mentioned that at the moment now we are not at the stage Industry 4.0, but rather on the stage of 2.0 or 3.0, because according to the statistics, about 15% of companies in Poland, industrial enterprises are fully automated. Partly automated are 75% of Polish enterprises, which shows at which stage we are at the moment and which priorities we have at the moment. So something which is really urgent is definitely investment in the technological infrastructure, which would later on become the foundation for the implementation of kind of more recent technologies. It does not pertain to everyone. It doesn't mean that we are to wait with implementing Industry 4.0. So the Canadian economist said about the internet such a thing. There is no such a more powerful thing than the idea whose time has just come. So we can say the same about Industry 4.0. So this is the idea from 100 years before ago of futurities that we would be flying by cars without the drivers, the cars would be kind of airplanes. And are we now at the stage that the biggest automation that we have is automated lit light in shopping malls? levels, or are we more advanced as regards production? No, I wouldn't say that the light, which is lit automatically, it's a kind of the biggest technological achievement in Poland. Of course, we are now catching up with others. Industry 3.0 looked like that there was concentration on heavy industry, when in the West they already introduced computerization and some automatic functions. So here, capex on innovation is just 7%. So the example of Siemens company, whose capex on R&D is more than that of all industrial companies in Poland taken together. So that's the level. So we are not pioneers here. Of course, we are now catching up with the leaders. We are trying to catch up. So now, referring to the presentation that has just been made, I'd like to emphasize that the revolution, which is to be started soon, and soon we would really be part of it, involves a certain change of a paradigm. In the classical economy, we said that three sources are capital, labor, and land. And now we have innovation, information, and knowledge. And as for this knowledge, it's really growing every year. So I have some statistics here. I am a guy giving statistics today that every day 5 million pieces of equipment are connected, and they generate lots of data. I mean, and it's envisaged that in 2020, the number of such pieces of equipment would be over 20 billion, and according to some statistics, there would be 50 billion of such pieces of equipment, and within the next 5 years, the number of data will grow, so 10 times or even 50 times. So now the challenge is how to somehow control this ocean of data. To cope with it, is it possible to draw some information from it that would be transformed into the knowledge and would be the basis of some decisions in a company?
I understand that there's so much of this data, and after the presentation of Krzysztof, I know that on the part of public administration we can count on support in development, but data and development also means integration, going abroad. So the question to Director Wajdas, what does it look like in Lithuania? Does administration support the development of Industry 4.0 in Lithuania, or do you think it's too early, or maybe you are far ahead, further ahead than Poland?
Okay, everything is flowing. Firstly, I want to say that is very big support from the Ministry of Economy as regards Industry 4.0 initiative. We adopted last year our platform, and we focus on five areas. First of all, it's technologies, then goes services which needed for the industry as regards digitization, then standards and regulatory framework, then cybersecurity and human resources. So that's 5 working areas that we are working now. And what we realized last year and now that the level of the digitization of the companies are very wide, and how to close this gap. How to close this gap? I have the statistics about from the European Commission report. For example, 56% of ICT companies are highly digitized. As regards, if we go to the manufacturing, only 6% are highly digitized. And if we look at SMEs and big companies, SMEs are only 60% highly digitized, and 42% of large companies are highly digitized. And how to solve this problem? And the Commission suggested that this could be solved through digital innovation hubs, who can serve for the companies who can bring the competences to one digital innovation hub, where like a one-stop shop, company comes and what they need technology, they need to test technology. You can do is, if you want to, if you need the trainings, please have a training. So let me give one example from our daily work. We made it a survey, how many these digital innovation hubs are working in Lithuania. So we have 8 of them, and the special areas that they're working, it's robotics, it's photonics, it's IT solutions for the manufacturing, then R&D, and advanced manufacture. And they trying to provide wide range of activities, such technology audits, certification, consultation, training, so on and so on. And what is our goal now today, and our mission is to bring them together. They act like separate 8 hubs. What we want to do, that they have to act like a one, with one the strategy and to coordinate their activities. And that's the way to get the most benefit and to speed up the digitalization of the industry.
Czy to wsparcie administracji
jest na poziomie organizacyjnym, czy jest również finansowe? Is this administrative support at the organizational level only, or is this financial as well?
About the financial, we have now more than 20 technologies and solutions for the industry established, and we will support our industry. And this year we start with this financial measure, and we plan to give about 40 million euros for this technologies, for the implementing these technologies.
Ja mam pytanie, tak?
I have a question. We have seen government assumptions of the Polish government, Lithuanian government, technology, IoT revolution, Industry 4.0 revolution. There's a saying, what's the difference between innovation in Europe and in the USA? In Europe, you organize a conference on innovation. In the US, you do innovation. In your presentations, I have not heard anything about the role of human factor, because innovation technologies are implemented by people, what we call the capital, the human capital. We're today at the conference devoted to clusters. We're talking about ecosystem. We're talking about competition. What role do you see for clusters, for the ecosystem that will implement robotics? Robots do not implement themselves. Robots are... I understand this is the question to administration, right? I showed you the most recent tasks, because the platform shall not be established just for the sake of establishing. The platform are the entities that want to function within the platform. First of all, we must, let's call it, we must educate Polish business
so that it understands and is aware of what is connected to the fourth industrial revolution. We have to point to benefits arising from transition to Industry 4.0, and this is something clusters can obviously do. Another thing is educating the staff for education. You could say, yes, this is the role of the state. Well, let's be honest. The state will not be able to handle educating teachers who would teach about Industry 4.0. As a result of changes in Polish educational system over the past 40 years, we have no teachers to teach this. I have a question to you. Can you imagine today that all Polish universities could teach people Industry 4.0? Probably not. We have several technical universities, we have several general universities, but we're now talking about a totally different approach to business activities. Again, clusters could be useful. Then, third thing, consulting, which is also very important. Entrepreneurs come with a problem, technological problem, organizational problem, maybe not really product related, but they tell me, are you able to help me? How do I handle the problem I'm facing? I don't have the right people. I bought some machines, but I don't know how to use their potential. Again, clusters could do this. I imagine that it would be clusters, the key clusters, for example, because they have competences already today in order to be present at the national market, not only the local market. For example, Aviation Valley. With the competences of the Aviation Valley, it could disseminate its knowledge, good experiences. Well, this is the Aviation Valley. Is the first thing that came to my mind. We're talking about Białystok cluster or many other clusters that have competences today. They have contacts, they have the market knowledge, they know what's happening in the market, and they could making money on fourth Industrial Revolution. May I? Yes.
Porozmawiamy już troszkę o ewangelizacji i o tym, jak to wygląda z lotu ptaka od strony administracji, a chciałbym wykorzystać to, że w naszym panelu mamy przedsiębiorcę, trochę startup, trochę firmę, która tą rewolucję 4.0 u siebie wprowadziła.
The company who introduced 4.0 revolution, we have the representative of the cluster organization from Austria. And gentlemen, question to you, what are your experiences? Starting from why Industrial Revolution 4.0? Why is it implemented? It's not because the government wanted. Przemek, what happened in your company? For us, the driver to introduce machineering were three problems. The first problem, continued human errors. They translated into occupational and manufacturing safety. Second issue, we wanted high-quality products. We wanted something dedicated for specific applications of highest quality, more refined, better adapted to specific needs. And the third factor was optimization of manufacturing in economic terms. So we wanted to retain the quality parameters while bringing down the costs. So these were three key drivers for introduction. I would like to supplement this question. Does the government strategy help you, or does it bother you? Well, it's so far from the real business that I don't feel it at all. I will rephrase this question in a more human way. Was it painful? Was the implementation a long, resource-consuming process? Were there any places where you could expect some support, and could you be supported by clusters? In my view, there's a huge gap between business and science, and this gap is not being reduced. Even if we have an idea, we want to use a solution, we don't know how to do this, we have no partner to talk to. Universities tell us about their projects, which they've done or they're doing, but translation of what they do into real business is very difficult. We devoted 80% of the time for implementation to finding solutions. It's not like you look for a solution in the market and, oh yes, there it is. There are standard solutions which very rarely are adapted to fit a specific enterprise.
Przekonać kanadyjskiego producenta, żeby oprogramował tak linię, jak my to zrobiliśmy, żeby te linie między sobą...
And it's very difficult to convince other users of our technology to work in a similar way, to program such manufacturing lines like we did program ourselves, so that these lines learn from each other. It's very difficult to identify people that will help us to find a solution in the market. I think both you and Krzysztof Zaremba told us the same, answered the general question of our panel. So what is the task for clusters when it comes to Industry 4.0? So, Krzysztof, now you, what are your experiences in this area? Because I am of the impression that you are further ahead the road.
So thank you very much for the invitation as well. In principle, we have set up a kind of a process how we can implement a mega trend in the region, no matter what topic we are talking about. And how we did this, I will show you later on at the end of the workshop. But one thing I would like to share with you was also that when we came across the topic of advanced manufacturing, that we did a research and sent questionnaires to around about 2,600 companies and key players in Upper Austria, asked them a bunch of questions if advanced manufacturing is a big issue for you, and the majority said, well, it's not so important, or we deal with it, but actually they didn't have a clue what the topic was all about. And then we gave them more or less a short information, what is the topic about, what are the challenges, and so on and so forth. And at the end, the majority of them, almost 80%, said, wow, this is really a big issue, we need to deal with it. So at the beginning, everybody knew about it, but said, well, we don't have to deal with it too much. And at the end, everybody said, well, it's really an issue we have to tackle. And based on that, we developed over time a so-called maturity model, where we can measure the readiness level of companies in the field of advanced manufacturing in 3 different dimensions. We can look at the strategy of the company, we can look where are they at the moment, we can derive, we can see where they need to develop to, and we can give them advice what actions they should take to improve. And it's not a matter of being a highly sophisticated technology-driven company, but it can be a very hands-on company which is still doing mainly manual work, up to a highly sophisticated company doing with RFID chips and artificial intelligence. So it's an approach which works for everybody. And derived on their strategy, you get clear recommendations where to improve, and you can use it as a constant improvement cycle to improve you as a company. And so we also trained a bunch, and all the outcomes, what you do of this kind of evaluation process are put in a kind of a database where these outcomes are benchmarked against others in specific sectors, and we are now in the field of translating it to English, because we are in a big project with Hungary right now with the ministry, so that they want, I don't know, to benchmark a couple of 100 companies there in Hungary in that approach. and we train also a bunch of experts who would really then go abroad to do this. So for us, the idea is to create awareness and to have more or less the knowledge available for it, but we see it on the one hand as also a business case for us to earn some money with it, and also in the other hand to really leverage it by training a bunch of people who really go around and do this kind of benchmarking.
O to chciałem zapytać też, bo
This is what I
jesteś
wanted to
przedstawicielem
ask you
Clusterland,
about.
czyli
You
kilku
are
klastrów.
a representative of Clusterland, several clusters.
Właśnie od
What
administracji oczekujesz?
cooperation do you expect from administration? We've heard today that clusters were expecting financial support, but in your case, do you expect external financing, or do you only expect to be provided with lobbying opportunities to represent the sector?
I think it's a combination of both. The overall approach, what we have like 9 clusters and a network in our Clusterland running right now. And the approach is that at the beginning you get more or less for the cluster initiative round about 90% funding of this government. But the public funding is decreased by 10% each year. So you have always a path that you have to increase your self-financing rate. And we keep a kind of a basic funding of round about 30% because we do not want to end up completely as consultants, but really serve the benefits of our region. So we have, on the one hand, a basic support of the government, and if it comes to advanced manufacturing, and I will show it a little bit more in detail later on, we got a bunch of support if it comes to we developed kind of funding schemes jointly with the government in the field of advanced manufacturing, where they now put money in. We have integrated the government in lobbying activities. We have taken them all over the world to key cradles of advanced manufacturing to put this topic highly on the agenda. So we need these people and we cooperate intensely with them, but it's just just a part issue like the money, but actually the key issue I think is the approach.
Okej, dziękuję. Panie dyrektorze, czy dyrektor Wajdas,
czy
w Państwa administracji jest również
does your
miejsce dla
administration
clusterów,
have a
również
space for
widzicie
clusters?
sposób na
Do you
rozwój
see
rynku
clusters
Industry
as a way to develop the Industry 4.0 market?
Thank you for the question. Firstly, about the clusterization in our country, we don't have a cluster strategy. We still have a clusters conception, which is the main goal is to increase our competitiveness of the economy. As I said before, our clusters are still not very good developed, and as I said, the level of the companies differs, and I think here we should talk more about cluster like a digital innovation hub cluster who can help the companies to get the technologies, to get trainings, to empower people to understand the benefit on the Industry 4.0. So I think it's too early for our clusters to make some activities in Industry 4.0. So I think the most effect will gain from this, I think, if we have a digital innovation hub cluster.
Yeah, because when you were describing the concept of hub, from my point of view, it's not far from cluster. Whatever we use, we can call this platform, cluster, or hub, but it seems to me that you are talking about a cluster organization, using different words.
Yes, yeah. That's right. It's very similar to the cluster because of the, and one more thing, what is important to mention, that these, for example, like hubs, they cannot compete. They act in this area and they don't compete. And I think it's one of the benefits to be in such a cluster.
Teraz, jak Państwo może zauważyliście, do tej
As you
pory
may have noticed,
klaster nie był najczęściej wymienianym
cluster
słowem,
has
bo
not
rozmawialiśmy
been
o
the word which was
Industrii
most
4.0,
frequently mentioned.
o
We
SOR-ze,
discussed Industry
o takich
4.0,
rzeczach, ale jest między nami, last but not least,
last but not least,
ekspert
we
do
have
spraw
with
klastrów
us
i
a cluster expert.
Piotr, chciałem z Ciebie
And
wycisnąć taką
Piotr, now I'd like
receptę, której
to
szukamy dzisiaj. Po tym,
to
co
give us a kind of recipe
usłyszeliśmy
that
i
we've been
otworzyć
looking
na
for
ten temat
today,
dyskusję,
after what we've
jaką
heard
rolę
today.
faktycznie mogą
So
pełnić
the question is,
klastry, gdzie one mogą
which role
pomóc
could a
w
cluster
wdrażaniu Industrii
perform,
4.0,
how can they
gdzieś
help implement
poprzez
Industry
wypełnianie tej luki, o
4.0
której
by
powiedział
filling this
Przemek,
gap, which was
może będąc trochę bliżej
mentioned
biznesu
by
bezpośrednio
Przemek,
niż
because he's closer to
administracja,
business,
która chce pomóc, ale może nie do
rather
końca
than
wie, jakie
administration,
narzędzie do
because
tego wybrać. Czy
administration
klaster
may
jest takim
want to help,
narzędziem
but does not
i
know
jeśli
which
tak,
tool
to
to
jak
choose
powinien
it.
działać?
And is cluster such a tool? And if so, how should it operate? Thank you very much for this question.
Bardzo proszę.
It is not an easy
Starałem
question.
się.
Yeah, you're welcome. It is not easy for several reasons. I would not stick to this kind of model like several model of cluster. And let me now go from the detail to more general picture, because I think a very interesting example in the context of Industry 4.0 might be the project that we've been implementing in Lublin. The project was started with the fact that we took cluster excellence as methodology. We did not treat it in a dogmatic way, of course, but it was very useful. And we also made use of the knowledge that was once transferred by Christoph when we were in Linz, in Clusterland. And then we were listening to the needs of the industry, because the project was dedicated to that, and the project aim was to maintain the speed of industrialization of the city, and it was possible thanks to obtaining the status of special zone. So, and then we started building kind of specific basis for the cluster when we started talking to entrepreneurs, and very soon we saw barriers and expectations which were articulated by entrepreneurs, and to which Industry 4.0 responds. So not enough labor force, increase of effectiveness, or customization of some individual orders, etc., or customization of the offer. And the problem that we encountered was maybe not full, but quite big distrust on the part of the entrepreneur to the word cluster and Industry 4.0. I think entrepreneurs treat it as a kind of the next wave of political and economic activities, which is to make them happy. And at a certain time, it's a kind of cluster wave, and it was like that because of availability of funds, and thinking about clusters as a certain vehicle to consume public funds. And at the moment, the Industry 4.0 is not obvious. That is what it really involves. So we started fighting against these problems in such a way that we showed cluster once through the cooperation links, and we show those cooperation links in the context of coping with the problems that the industry faces. And here, the city council and the marshal councils were very much involved, and it was natural. So somehow this tribal helix was formed on its own, not necessarily we were promoting it as a cluster. And our function, that is the function of the cluster, was such, because here we of course clashed against the Polish law. There is no such legal status as the cluster. The foundation had to be established, etc., etc., the sort of traditional story, kind of adventure story. We built a cluster, but after diagnosing the needs, I mean, identifying the needs, we managed to respond by this Industry 4.0. And we call it, in fact, optimization of production processes rather than Industry 4.0. So to respond to these problems connected with insufficient labor force on the market and the need of modernizing companies. And here again, there was a certain clash, and the role was to be played by cluster that we speak plainly, clearly, so that to start talking to companies, because the companies which at the beginning declined the issue of modernization in the context of Industry 4.0, and then, thanks to our partners from Munich, because out of a sudden Germans showed us that basically in industrial park they had machines from the 1930s, and because the module is connected to it, they already take part in communication, in taking management decisions, really. And then out of a sudden companies try to address us, and they said that they buy machines every, I don't know, 1 or 2 months, but the production people say that, of course, these machines are not interconnected, and they should be, and therefore, thanks to that, they could draw from this much more. And that's how we started it. That was kind of bottom-up way that we took by communicating simple values. We started talking about very complex things, and it seems that now this barrier is behind us. That is, now entrepreneurs see the benefits, and they know that we can introduce them step by step, and at each of this step we will have new values and results for the companies. However, the problem is that in Poland we don't have too many competencies in that respect. So, for example, we are able to help ourselves run business. I wouldn't like to dwell on it too much, because there's also the issue of the discussion about industrial park, the functions of industrial park, that in Poland it's really difficult to define the industrial park, because again, as a country, when we made up the definition, it was somehow connected with the 1990s, with the crisis of that period, and then we started using EU funds, and we, well, stopped thinking about these tools. So we have, somehow we have quite a lot of backlog in the various areas. But the role of the cluster is, first of all, to identify the needs, to explain the benefits, but using not a ministerial or doctrinal language or whatever. However, it should be translated into specific benefits to companies, and there should be trust that both politics and business are pragmatic finally. And we believe that the cluster offer for its participants is good, and it responds to real needs. So then we don't need too many kind of magic words.
Mariusz, również jeśli możesz, włącz się troszkę, ale o to chciałem zapytać. Ta oferta właśnie, czy możemy podać jakąś złotą receptę, z czego ona się powinna składać? Czy te klastry dla Industry 4.0 zadziałają lepiej, jeżeli będą centrami wiedzy, czy będą świadczyły usługi jako outsourcing, czy będą pomagały budować wspólny brand jako klaster, czy będą dzielić zlecenia pomiędzy konkurujących wykonawców? Co ten klaster mógłby robić? Czy co robi, Mariusz, u Ciebie?
Przede wszystkim ja jestem przeciwny
Mariusz, what would you say? So, first of all,
rewolucji
I'm
odgórnie, to
against
bolszewicy ją robili.
creating revolution
Jeżeli mówimy o rewolucji
top-down, like
technologicznej,
Bolsheviks.
to
No,
rewolucję
they
technologiczną
did
robią
it. So,
firmy.
as for technological revolution,
Na
it's
troszkę wyższym
companies
poziomie robią
that
cluster.
organize it, and at a bit higher level, it
Rolą
is clusters who
administracji
do such
jest
revolution. The role of
zrozumieć,
administration is
co się dzieje.
to understand what's going on in companies, what's
Firmy
happening
nie
in
robią
companies.
rewolucji
The companies are known
IoT
to
czy
organizing
rewolucji
IoT revolution
przemysłu
or
4.0, bo tak
Industry
trzeba.
4.0 revolution
Bo
because
tak,
it's
tak jest
necessary, because
naturalny
it's
rozwój w tej
necessary. No,
chwili.
because it's such natural
Nasz cluster w tej chwili
development.
realizuje
That's why they do it.
projekt
So our cluster is
dotyczący
now
budowy
implementing the
nanosatelity.
project
Tak? Czym
on
jest nanosatelita? Tak?
construction of
To jest komputer,
nanosatellite.
który
What is a
każdy będzie
nanosatellite? It's a
miał i
computer
będzie
soon everybody would
personalnym
have. It will be a
satelitą
kind of
do personalnego
personal
użytku.
satellite
Co
for
na ten
personal
temat ma do powiedzenia
use.
rząd?
So what would
Niewiele.
government
Dlaczego?
say about it? Not much
To nie
really.
jest rola
Why?
rządu.
Because it's not the government's
Czyli
role.
jeżeli mówimy
So if
o roli
we
klastrów
discuss
w
the
rewolucji
role of
4.0,
clusters
przemysłu
in
4.0 i
revolution,
IoT,
Industry
to
4.0,
nasze podejście
IoT,
Mazowskiego Klastra ICT, Krajowego Klastra
our
Kluczowego jest
key
następujące.
clusters, Mazowian clusters, approach is as
Administracja
follows.
lokalna,
Local
administracja
administration or
publiczna.
public
Słuchajcie
administration, please listen
i
to
nie
us.
pomagajcie nam,
And don't help us.
tylko pozwólcie nam realizować
us
tą rewolucję, która się dzieje. Były tutaj przytoczone
Implement the
cyfry,
revolution
tak?
is
Ale
going
przepraszam,
on now.
a ty będziesz słuchał,
Figures
rozumiem,
were quoted
Przemka
like 5 million,
i
so you
innych
would
przedsiębiorców
listen to
w imieniu
Przemek-
administracji.
Przemek and
To nie w imieniu
Wiesz, tak
administracji.
apelujesz, to ja bym chciał wiedzieć po co.
So,
No.
Ja
because
nie w
if
imieniu
you have such an
administracji, ja
appetite,
jestem
like
do
to know
tego,
why.
ja
I-
Cluster jest
I am
organizacją,
a cluster. I
która,
mean, cluster is an
tworzy konsorcja
organization
projektowe.
which creates
Cluster jest tą
project
organizacją,
consortia.
która
The
tłumaczy
cluster is an organization
w przypadku
which
polskiego klastra z polskiego na polski, czyli
let's
tłumaczy
say
język
translates from Polish
przedsiębiorcy,
to Polish in the
jego
case of
kulturę,
Poland. So
potrzeby na język uczelni,
translates
profesorów,
business
centr R&D
needs
i na język
into the
administracji.
professors and
Centrum tego
administrators
wszystkiego jest przedsiębiorca.
language, and in the
Dlatego
center
zadałem
of
to
all of it
pytanie,
is entrepreneur.
czy
So
akurat
that's
ty
why I
masz,
asked the question.
tobie do czegoś potrzebna jest
Would you
strategia
need
rządowa,
a
czy ty z
government
niej korzystasz?
strategy?
Czyli to, co ja chcę
What would you need
powiedzieć,
such
tak?
government strategy for?
Jaka jest rola
Would you use
klastrów
it?
w
So that's what I'd like to
rewolucji
say. What is the role of clusters
ekonomicznej,
in economic
technologicznej?
technological
Kluczowa,
revolution?
bo klastry
It's a
są
key
tą
role
organizacją,
because the
czy je
clusters are such
nazwijmy
an organization,
platformy
wherever they are
technologiczne,
called, technological
huby,
platforms,
centra
hubs,
kompetencji,
competence
ekosystem,
centers,
to
ecosystems,
one robią
they
rewolucję.
They
A
do
rola rządu
revolution, and the
jest
government's
zrozumieć ten
role
trend
is to understand
i nie
the
przeszkadzać.
trend and not to disrupt it.
Znaczy tak, jeśli
Okay.
jeśli chodzi o samo centrum,
as
to
for the
założenie,
center,
które my,
I
to
mean,
myślę przyjęliśmy, tak,
the-
traktujmy. No bo to się zaczęło w ogóle od porozumienia
the guidelines that we
miasta
adopted,
Lublin,
because it
firmy
started with
Ursus i
between
Tumi International,
started with
jako
agreement
spółki
between
sekcji
Ursus,
polityki
Lublin, and the Munich company,
I założenie dotyczące centrum kompetencji,
and
które chcemy
the
utworzyć,
assumption for the competence
związane
center
jest
that
tak
we'd
naprawdę
like to set up is
z
really
samowystarczalnością tego
connected
centrum.
with
To znaczy,
self-sufficiency of
cieszymy
such
się, że ta
center.
inicjatywa,
Indeed,
która
we are
rodzi się w
happy that the
Lublinie, ona
initiative
wychodzi
which is
naprzeciw
being born in
działaniom
Lublin
rządu. Mamy nadzieję,
it
że rząd w
also,
pewnym momencie, przepraszam, kieruje wzrok
is
na pana,
also
ale mamy
in
nadzieję,
line
że
with
rząd w pewnym
government
momencie
activities,
dostrzeże,
and
że
hopefully
faktycznie
the
robimy
government
coś
will
ciekawego.
soon see that indeed we are doing something interesting. That's why I'm looking at the gentleman from the government. But on the other hand, we want it to be based on the normal economic calculus. So the problem which we are fighting against now internally in Lublin is the issue of changing this mentality that you just arrange the project for the grant. I mean, with a view to the grant, external funding. In my opinion, I think we should get back to those guidelines, to the kind of very, very beginnings of EU funds in Poland. We started to receive these EU funds as a kind of support and supplement to initiatives that would appear anyhow in Poland. So for this dozen years of time, we mentally changed the system, and now we make projects dependent on the possibility of getting funding. And then the funding is over and the project dies because
znaczenia biznesowego.
it it is of no business importance. So as for this particular center, it is being created with a view to Industry 4.0. It will be focused on the Internet of Things. And the other issue is the use of the Internet of Things in the production of agricultural machinery or in the agri-food industry, because the industry in Lublin, I mean, it's not just looking for smart specializations within the meaning of very ambitious directions, which are very kind of good for ego politicians, but taking into account what was the basis of the industry in Lublin starting in the middle of 19th century, because it happened like that, that Scots established the first agricultural machinery factory in Lublin in mid-1880s. So we started to cooperate with Sigma, Ursus of Verenchuk companies in order to implement the Internet of Things in their products. So we do have it. We have thought it over in two parallel areas, but, well, the basic assumption is that we respond to the needs and respond in such a need so that these organizations will be able to live of it, and if it has some profits, thanks to providing services such as enabling optimization or Industry 4.0 would get back to
Panowie,
the
patrząc na to, ile czasu nam zostało, mam teraz taką propozycję. Let's play a game. Poproszę od was po jednym haśle, dla zaawansowanych można dwa. Co jest najważniejszego dla klastrów? Animatorzy klastrów proszę znotować. Co jest najważniejszego dla klastrów w kontekście Industry 4.0, żeby to wreszcie zadziałało? Panie Krzysztofie, od pana zaczniemy.
Co jest najważniejsze dla klastrów?
Jedno hasło bez uzasadnienia, mamy minutę na wszystko.
Chciałbym, żeby klastry w pewnej perspektywie były tak naprawdę reprezentantem, bo jest pytanie, ile procent polskiego biznesu, polskich firm przemysłowych dzisiaj jest klastrem. Okaże się, że bardzo mało. I dlatego ja mówię, mogę się z panem zgodzić co do generalnej zasady, że tak, niech administracja da biznesowi spokój, niech nie próbują robić dobrze. Ale rzeczywistość jest trochę inna. To, o czym pan mówi, jest bardzo... Przepraszam, bo ja się teraz wtrąciłem. To, o czym pan mówi, jest bardzo dobre w zaawansowanych gospodarkach, gdzie jest bardzo mocno rozwinięty kapitał społeczny. Natomiast powiem szczerze, my robiliśmy rok temu badanie z Siemensem wspólnie.
Będę rzucał tam pana czymś zaraz.
Bo ja 17 sekund, ja wiem, że jest takie zdrowe. Natomiast chciałbym się do tego odnieść, bo to jest bardzo ważna myśl, którą pan powiedział. My robiliśmy takie badanie z Siemensem w ubiegłym roku i powiem szczerze, wśród małych i średnich, umówmy się, odnośnie jak mali i średni widzą przemysł 4.0. Wnioski są porażające. Ja państwa zapraszam, bo na stronach Siemens ten raport wisi. Wnioski są porażające. Co jest dzisiaj według małych polskich przedsiębiorców, małych i średnich, przeszkodą w tym, żeby ich firma mogła wejść w ten motyw przemysłu 4.0. Powiem szczerze, tam jest taki napis, że to administracja przeszkadza w tym wejściu. Dlatego to, co może zrobić administracja, my nie chcieliśmy zakładać kolejnej agencji, która by szerzyła nam przemysł 4.0. My specjalnie tworzymy twór, nazwijmy to brutalnie, twór w postaci fundacji, dlatego żeby przedsiębiorcy się zidentyfikowali z fundacją, jako kimś, do kogo oni mogą mieć zaufanie, z kim mogą współdziałać, bo wiemy doskonale, jak się współdziała w Polsce z agencjami. Agencja jako twór administracji jest nieco oporna na tę współpracę pomiędzy przedsiębiorcami. Dlatego właśnie kwestia fundacji. Ale to jest na dłuższą rozmowę, nie dzisiaj, być może w kuluarach. Bardzo dziękuję.
Dobra, to tak nie robimy. Każdy mówi jedno słowo, no może dwa. Podsumowując, klaster jako interfejs komunikacji.
Okay, I would say the key message would be innovation through cooperation. That's more or less my key message on clusters, and this covering all these activities like involving research, involving cluster partners like companies, involving also trend scouting and stuff like this, to really to pave the ground for success. So innovation through cooperation would be the sentence.
Thank you.
Ja się tym razem zastosuję.
Well, I will follow the suggestion towards social capital.
Myślę, że
Well, I
z
think,
mojego punktu widzenia
from my point of view,
kluczowe jest to, że ja szczerze mówiąc nie znalazłem żadnego klastra w okolicy, który mógłby pomóc.
I have not found a single cluster in my vicinity that could help. There's no information, no communication, there's no outreach, brutally speaking.
Brak jest realnej usługi.
There's no realistic service there provided. Maybe not service, there's no support
Może szukać przedsiębiorca,
that
czyli realnie brak jest
entrepreneurs need. So there's no knowledge, no information on what cluster could provide. There's no outreach.
Bo oczekuję, żeby tą usługą było
So you expect the
to, że
service.
klaster właśnie w ramach
What do you expect to be the service?
usługi może w twoim miejscu lobbować, coś załatwić.
The cluster lobbying on your behalf against administration, or do you expect the cluster to facilitate access to tools?
Zejdę do takiego poziomu,
So I will go down
zawsze.
to the fundamental level. A simple example. We were looking for a sensor. Nothing refined, no rocket science.
Dziesiątki zapytań,
Tens of queries, tens of discussions, universities, incubators.
Ale nie mam pomysłu, jak wam w tym pomóc.
And it all ends up with them saying, we've no idea how to help you.
Może jakiegoś takiego rozpoznania tego rynku. Przedsiębiorca jako
An entrepreneur as a unit is unable to do everything. The cluster could reach out to many companies. Most of the services offered are intended for large companies. Small companies, they have no chance. Medium, maybe. But if a service is continued to be offered to large enterprises, there is a barrier to use the service.
I will be very brief and I will try to keep the rule in one sentence. So I think clusters has to be like a one-stop shop for the industry, for the companies, because Industry 4.0 is not only technology, it's philosophy.
Thank you.
Ja myślę, że pragmatyzm.
I think pragmatism,
Takie zaufanie w to,
trust
że na końcu
in a fact that finally, in the end, both business and politics want to have real outcomes. And also, if you communicate something directly, it's much better accepted by people and they start to commit themselves. Like from the beginning, we started that there will be no EU funds. We said, close your eyes and imagine the world without EU funds, because this will anyway happen post-2020. So we have to finance it ourselves, we have to build our competitive edge ourselves, and it worked well. So pragmatism.
Jedno słowo. Business model. Umiesz liczyć?
Business model. If you can count on yourself. IoT revolution or Industry 4.0 revolution is not there because someone wants it. It's there because business wants to develop and must stay on top of it. So correct business model and response to current challenges. This is what clusters should do.
Dziękuję za to. Jak jeszcze mi nikt nie macha, że już natychmiast muszę skończyć, to chciałem
So if I don't have to finish immediately, I would like to answer the question posed by Przemek. How do your clusters, what do your clusters look like? How many large companies, how many medium companies in your clusters? Are these large companies that are recipients of your services? Well, out of 300 companies in clusters are large and medium, the rest are small and micro. Large company is an ecosystem in itself.
U nas to jest
In our cluster,
fundatorzy I uczestnicy
now founders and participants of clusters, most of them are large companies, but this is related to the fact that we needed an engine first, we needed a group which has certain self-awareness, certain business possibilities, but now it will probably develop towards supplementing the cluster with the representatives of SMEs.
Hello?
Christoph?
So the structure in our clusters,
Yes.
we have like 9 clusters in a network, and it depends on the sector what the cluster is. Overall, we have in average an SME rate of 81% of the companies. But if you look, for instance, in the timber and furniture cluster, where we have more or less 97% even micro companies. So we are not even talking about SMEs, but really, really very micro ones. And on the other hand, if we look at the automotive cluster, then we have just 67% SMEs. So it depends strongly on the sector, but on an overall basis, 81%.
To Przemku, ja cię muszę skierować na mapę klastrów na stronie Parku.
Przemek, I have to direct you to the map of clusters at PARP website.
I tym samym przejdziemy, bo Maja chciała się włączyć.
Tak, już czekamy na to, żeby się włączyć I przywitać z Państwem.
I'd like to join this conversation. Maja Wasilewska, I represent PARP, Polish Agency for Enterprise Development. Thank you,
bardzo dziękuję wszystkim panelistom.
moderators, thank you, panelists, and before I invite you to converse on the margins of this conference, several requests. Please stay. We have workshops ahead of us, which will be led by Polish-Austrian duo. So I encourage you to stay, but those of you who have to leave, and I count that it will not be many, for those of you, there will be certain gifts at the reception, on condition you fill in a questionnaire. It's important to us to know your impressions from this meeting. We'd like to know your expectations. Hopefully this is not the last meeting like this, but we'd like to organize every subsequent meeting in a manner that will respond best to your needs. So even if your comments are unpleasant, they will be very important to us. And another request is, I will now invite you to a coffee break, but don't make it longer than 10 minutes. Please try and make your tables. So if you can collect the papers and put your computers back to your bags, it will help us to prepare the workshop session. Hopefully I will see all of you back here in 10 minutes.
Przepraszam, halo, jeszcze podobno miałem wpuścić pytania z publiczności jakieś, ale rozumiem, że jak wszyscy są zajęci pakowaniem, to nie ma. Chyba że są chętni, to jeszcze panowie są
meant to allow questions from the floor.
Ja do pani polecę z mikrofonem, sorry.
Dzień dobry, cześć, Izabela Met-Silesia Cluster.
Silesia Cluster. Everything you said, I agree with. Clusters should participate, and they are the place where science meets business, and we listen to the needs of the business, and hopefully the needs of the clusters will be heard in the ministry or PARP. Hopefully programs for clusters, national program for clusters shall be drafted. I'm looking at the Ministry of Development now because we have submitted a flagship project, Polish medical robot. We have some internal barriers, we have manufacturers, we manufacture rehabilitation robots which are exported to 50 countries, but for reasons of internal barriers, we cannot implement them in Polish reality because of administrative barriers. So hopefully there will be tools that will support promotion of clusters and promotion of companies. I agree. We also have an offer for micro companies who report to us. Hopefully such discussion within clusters will have a broader dimension and our voice will be heard. One call for proposals for national clusters is not enough to support such a large group of clusters which exist in Poland, operate in Poland, and associate a great number of enterprises. And these entrepreneurs have a great contribution into our economy. I'm just a moderator here, but I'd like to draw your attention to one thing. Please, let us use this discussion to learn to do business in our cluster, so we don't have to base our activities on external financing and calls for proposals, but we have to try and identify solutions where administration could support us to initiate.
Ode mnie dla pani brawo.
Brawo.
Czy jeszcze ktoś chciałby zadać pytanie?
Można? Czy mnie słychać? Ja chciałem podnieść rękawicę co do tego czujnika.
Well, about the sensor.
Czujniki dla Europejskiej Agencji Kosmicznej.
We manufacture sensors for European Space Agency, so I will be happy to know what sensor you need. But the question, specific question related to the discussion. Fiber optics were introduced by Corning. For dozens of years after placing them on the market, they made losses on them. If we invented fiber optics, we didn't have resources to continue financing it. So sometimes maybe we need private-public partnerships because our industry is not stable enough to support this type of development. But I agree that, first of all, there must be a business plan and not project-driven initiatives.
Dziękujemy bardzo serdecznie. Ja dziękuję panom, dziękuję państwu serdecznie i do zobaczenia na warsztatach.
And I see you back in this room at the workshop.